this section, we are going to learn about subprograms. And the first video in that series is going to be about procedures. So first off, let's look at what subprograms actually are. It is a single set of instruction, but it's defined under one name, so it's part of one single unit. They help to make programs more efficient, easier to test, and easier to read. And we're going to see why. A couple kind of caveats here. First one, you can see here it's called subroutine. You'll also see it called subprogram. They're interchangeable. Either one is fine. The other caveat is at GCSE, a lot of the coding that we do, unfortunately, is quite small, right? In the exam, you're asked for 6 marks, maybe maximum 8 marks, and it's quite small code. In the real world, programs could have thousands and thousands of lines with different files, and it's really important to keep those files organized and easy to read, easy to understand by somebody else. While normally at GCSE, you're probably the only one writing your code, in the real world, there could be a team of 50 developers working on one piece of software. So it's really important that that code is easy to read and easy to understand by other people. And subprograms help us to do that. So there are 2 types of subprograms, and we're going to look at what all these keywords here mean. So like return, parameter. We're coming back to those in the next few videos. But for right now, we're just going to focus on procedures. And right now, we're going to focus on the very, very, very basic procedures. And then in the next few videos, we're going to add parameters, and then we'll look at functions. So procedures. This is an example of a procedure. So the first kind of, it's not a rule, it's just convention, is that subroutines or subprograms should all be defined at the top of the program. So you can have a list of like all your subprograms, and then you can call them later on. So first off, we define the subprogram and we give it a name. So our subprogram here is called triangle, and def just stands for define. You're always going to have brackets afterwards, and we'll look at why in the next few videos, and then the colon. Now anything indented inside is part of our subprogram. So this subprogram is going to say height is 3, width is 4. We calculate the area of a triangle, and then we print out the area. Okay. Now this defines it. This does not actually run our subprogram. We've just defined it so far. So then, in your program, you can call that subprogram, and it tells all of this code to actually run. Now again, we're going to do an entire video just on calling subprograms, but this is how it works. So you define it, you create it, it's like a mini program we've created, but to actually run that mini program, we have to, it's called call it, and give the name of it later on in the program. So here's another example. We've got def greeting, so we're defining our subprogram, the name of it is greeting. Again, we've got these brackets and colon. Now notice anything indented inside of our subprogram is part of that subprogram. So this example just gets input from a user and then prints hello that person. And we could run this subprogram as many times as we want to. In this case, we're just running it once. So when we call greeting here, it tells us to go ahead and run that code. So let's look at some examples live. So let's say I want to create a subprogram that asks for a user's name, and tells them good morning. Okay, so I'm going to write def, and that's going to create my subprogram. Notice it's a reserved word in Python, so that's why it's gone a different color. Let's call it good morning. Okay. I put brackets, I put a colon. Now anything in here will be indented. So I'm going to ask for the user's name, and then I'm going to print good morning, whatever their name was. Okay, now this input hopefully you're quite comfortable with. Now if I go ahead and run this code, notice nothing's happened, right? We can check, let's check that it's actually running. So it prints testing, but our subprogram is not actually run. So in order to run the subprogram, we have to actually call it. So that's where I'm going to say good morning. And now wherever it sees this, you can see it's highlighted here, it says, okay, I'm going to go run that subprogram, and it's going to run all the code in here. So let's label this beginning, just so you can see where it's happening in the code. And you'll see it'll say beginning, and then it'll run this code, and then it'll print end. So clear it. All right, so we've got beginning, enter your name, fine, send input. That's not worked how we wanted it to. Let's try that again. Run it. There we go. It says good morning, Lauren, and then it prints end. Okay, so again, is when we call it, that's when it actually runs. So we can call it multiple times. Let's say here, good morning, Lauren, enter your name, Jordan. Good morning, Jordan. So because we've called the subprogram twice, it's run twice. And we'll look later at how you can call it multiple times. But the point here is we've defined a subprogram, and then when we call it, it runs. And normally in code, this is something that's going to be run multiple times in a program. But again, we're going to look at a bit more detail on that later. So let's have a go at this actual challenge. So we want to define a procedure that prints start now, but it has an error. We'll do it from scratch. Since I've deleted it, fix it, and call the procedure. So we just need to print start now. Let's call def my procedure. Alright, I'm going to print start now. Now, again, if I run this, nothing happens. But if I call my procedure, it prints start now. And that's worked as we wanted it to. So that's a bit about how subprograms work and procedures work. In the next video, we'll learn how to use parameters so that we have a bit more control over these subprograms.